It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And I'm starting out today with an update on how I feel about crypto, because I'm still asked virtually every day of my life. Someone stops me when I'm out and about to ask or talk about crypto. And later, speaking of financial education, a lot of people still scratch their heads why we don't have any vehicle in most schools to teach anything about financial education, and then people are thrown to the wolves when they start earning money and don't know exactly how to handle it. There's a strategy that is emerging in some schools that is past brilliant that I want to tell you about, that helps a lot with educating kids. And I'll tell you how I did something like this with my children when they were single digits, that taught them the value of a dollar long ago. So crypto. I remember 4 years ago how Clark Stinks would be just packed, jam-packed with people who were furious with me about what I'd say about crypto. And first of all, the idea of crypto is at its base, is the idea of non-governmental money. That you would have an item of value that would find its own way in the marketplace, free of central banks. And so crypto has potentially a role to play, but has never done what its advocates hope for, which is to become an alternative form of money that you could use to buy and sell things. It would be routinely accepted. And crypto instead became this whole thing that the mentality was about, and it's what people ask me about every day, is about this idea that crypto is a shortcut to wealth, to extreme wealth. And so what happens when you have something that becomes really speculative is you'll have a small number of people who will jump on the right up escalator at the right second, and they will sell at the exact right second, and they will make enormous amounts of money. But generally what happens with a speculative kind of thing like crypto that has, in most circumstances, no underlying backing, is that the values go up and down with the whims of the marketplace and the emotions of the marketplace. And so it'll be rockets up and very unfriendly crashes down. And we've seen this over and over again with various cryptos. Even the granddaddy of them all, Bitcoin, which people who got involved early and have had the stomach to stay in have done amazingly well over a roughly 15-year period. But what happens with it is wild. I'm looking at the price chart of the history of Bitcoin, and even though it has had a steady upward climb over long periods of time, in shorter times, it's had enormous declines in value and in short order, enormous gains. Up and down, up and down, up and down, to where it went in a short period of time to 1/4 approximately of its prior value, and then went from that and has gone up 4 times over. And so it's like this even with the most recognized. So as a form of payment, it has no stability in the marketplace. If I were to say, okay, I'll accept Bitcoin for rent payments on one of my rental property, what am I going to do with that Bitcoin after I've received it? Well, if I want to know what it's actually worth, I'm paying the bills I have for that property taxes and other condo fees and whatever. I'm paying those with the currency of the country that the properties are in, i.e. the US dollar. And so if I get paid in Bitcoin, what am I going to do? Unless I want to hold it for speculative purposes, I'm going to convert it back into dollars at what I can get that day. But, between when the tenant pays and when I convert, I could have lost several percent on that payment. So in other words, it is early pioneering days, even with the most recognized of all cryptos. And then you've got all the problems with fraud, with pitches for cryptos that turn out to be just theft rings, or where you have crypto stored in a wallet and somebody comes along and steals it. They hack into your email and they figure things out and they steal it. There's no recourse. So this is still a very, very early kind of thing that has uses in the criminal world in order to be able to move money without tracing it. A lot of the people who engage in these things where they hack into corporate or hospital computer systems, when they are ransomed back, the control of whatever it is, if somebody pays a ransom at a company or a government or a hospital or whatever, how are they told to pay? With crypto, so that it's untraceable. I mean, it's got a lot of seedy kind of angles to it as well. So maybe it will emerge as a reliable alternative method of holding money and paying for things and buying and selling and all that. We're not close to there yet. So don't think of crypto in any way as an investment. If you want to hold crypto with the idea of speculating on these wild movements that it makes, be my guest. But do not think of it as in any way a traditional investment. And don't get caught up in the message boards that hype and social media that hype crypto is going straight to the sky, because there's no substantiation, there's no reason fundamentally, economically, structurally, technically that it should do that. So you want to play with crypto, play with it. But understand it's not serious investing. And there is no instant shortcut to quick wealth.
All right, well.
How many Clark Stinks is that going to generate?
Oh, gosh, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe not as many as it did before.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I remember the ones who would say, you just don't get it.
Right. I mean, I know some very intelligent people who lost a lot of money in these things. It's really crazy.
It's a rough and tumble kind of thing.
Speaking of potential investments, Wayne in Florida wrote in and said, what is your take on buying gold backs? Is it a good investment?
So it's not an investment either. Gold backs is something that is a libertarian kind of thing that, gosh, I think there are 5 states now that gold backs somewhat circulate in. And this is it's almost like a plastic paper combination money that has little traces of gold in it, and you pay roughly double when you buy a gold back. You pay roughly double the value of the gold in it. So you have something that if a merchant accepts it, you could use to pay for things, but there's not that many merchants that accept gold backs in the few states where it does circulate. It's really a response to lack of faith in traditional central banks and government-issued money. And so the inflationary cycle increased people's interest in this kind of thing. But the problem always with gold is what you pay is not what you get. And when you sell, you don't get as much as what you paid. There's a buy-sell spread. In this case, your buy spread is roughly double the value of what you get. And so this is really almost like a reaction to people, a frustration, if you will, that we're not on the gold standard anymore in the United States, and that governments can print money at will. And this is people's kind of response to it. But is it something that makes sense on an individual level? From a financial standpoint, no. If it is a frustration that you have that's so personal about how money operates in a modern economy, and you want to do this, know that this is, and it's not just for now, it will remain a symbolic kind of way to use almost like as a barter instrument to buy and sell things. So I'm going to get more about that too, aren't I?
We'll see. Christina in Georgia says, I've accepted a job opportunity to work some nights and weekends in addition to my 9 to 5. I aim to do this for at least a year, generating an extra $90,000.
Wow.
I want to live off of my 9 to 5 check and use this $90K to help build my wealth. What do you recommend? Where do you recommend I put the extra money? Should I put it toward my mortgage at 7% interest, high yield savings account, EFTs, index funds, bonds, or
ETFs?
ETFs. Yep, sorry. Index funds, bonds, or anything else I may not be considering. I already have 6 months in savings and max out my 401k. I grew up listening to you, and now I am a second generation Clarkie. Thank you for everything you've done for my family, myself, and so many others.
Well, Christina, you deserve direct benefit from this incredible, hard, extra work you're going to do, working all these extra nights and weekends, and you want to get the most tangible value out of it. Your mortgage rate being at 7%, that's a fantastic opportunity you have. You know, if I'd had this question from you 3 years ago, you would have been asking, so should I invest the money or put it against my 4% mortgage? And I would say, without hesitation, invest the money. Buy, a total stock market index fund or something like that, and just throw the money in it, or a total stock market exchange traded fund. Put the money there. In this case, there's direct dollar for dollar, tremendous return on investment. Taking that $90K as you earn it, each part of it, and throw it every month at the balance of your mortgage. You've got this incredible recalculation of your mortgage that will occur, and you will have a guaranteed 7% return on your money, which is extraordinary. You think about how quickly you'll build equity in your home by doing that, and that way you'll see the immediate fruits of your labor.
Robert in Indiana says, each month our Visa credit card statement requests that we return our payment with our entire account number written on the check.
No, they don't.
However, when they send the bill, it only has the last 4 digits of our account on it. Doesn't this make identity theft easier for criminals that steal the mail? Do you write your entire account number when paying your bills?
No. I mean, this is lunacy. The very bank that's sending you the bill only lists the last 4 of the credit card, which is standard now. They only list the last 4 for most issuers. And then they want you to write all 16 digits down there and say to a criminal, hey, this is a great day for you. You've got our checking account, routing numbers, transit numbers. You got the whole thing to steal all the money out of our bank account. And wait, there's more. You've got the information you need to duplicate our credit card and buy things with it. Wow. Okay. So, no, don't list all 16 digits. Just list the last four like they do. But better, please don't send checks anymore. There's such a security problem with payments being stolen in the mail. And when a criminal gets a copy of your check, when they get your check, they've got everything they need to empty your checking account. So I don't like for you to send checks. I'd like for you to pay preferably at the website of your credit card company. Sign into your account and pay right there with, it'll be an ACH transaction. You'll put in your checking account information there. It will never be able to be intercepted through the mail. You'll never have to worry that your payment got lost or stolen in the mail. And you'll know your payment was made on time right then and there at the credit card company's own website. You eliminate a world of hurt and problems if you pay that way. And speaking of money, we're going to talk about how to turn kids into Clark Smart users of money and handling their money straight ahead. It's confession time. I have a definite confession to you. My 3 kids, each when they'd come to me with their math questions they'd have in high school, I was past useless to them. And I would look at it and I just have no idea what I was looking at. I don't know how I made it through all the math courses. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry. I don't even know what they all mean. Somehow you get through them, or you don't, but most get through them, but never really grasping the concepts unless you're that kind of person that like you think this is cool. And then we've got this other thing, this idea of people coming out of school, they may have taken some kind of required personal finance course to graduate from high school, more and more school systems doing that. And then later it seems like the lessons didn't take there either. So there's this whole idea that's opened up called FiCycle. And there is a curriculum that's been developed that's being pitched to high schools and colleges around the country that takes math and takes personal finance and puts them together, because you think about how much a personal finance is math oriented and how often people don't think about the things that you hear me talk about routinely. You know, $1 saved today becomes so much more valuable down the road than $1 saved 10 years from now. You say, well, yeah, that makes sense. But how much more? Like it's much, much, much more valuable, like more than twice as valuable. Time is your friend. And you can hear that, but if you know the math, is incredible. So the idea is that you use math, forget what the schools do. Let's think about what you can do as a parent. How can you use math with your child from elementary school age on up as a way of giving ongoing lessons in personal finance? And if you're a longtime listener, you know, or viewer, you know what I did with all 3 of my kids, where I used unit pricing as soon as they were old enough, typically around 3rd grade with my kids, but it varies based on your child. Used relevant lessons with unit pricing in stores, in grocery stores, as a simple way to teach the value of $1 and teach my kids comparative value. Because kids become so influenced where advertising looks like truth to them. So they'll see an ad for something, they'll parrot it in the store, and that's what they want in the cart, right? If you take your kids to the store, which is very common when they're young, you take them with you. What I did was I incentivized my kids to study the unit pricing, and I'd split the savings with them. And so they wanted to go with me to the supermarket, and they wanted to be able to generate that savings. And so they had a direct marketplace motivation to understand the price of item A versus B versus C. And it was a perfect elementary school age personal finance lesson. And it's just one example of the things I did over the years. And you know, I am a cruel and brutal parent. I required all three of my children to have traditional jobs when they turned 15. And they'd earn a paycheck. And two of them worked in restaurants, one worked as a lifeguard. But they had traditional jobs where they got a paycheck. And I offered them each the incentive of setting up a Roth IRA. And what they did not spend at work, from their paychecks, I was in a position I would match it dollar for dollar. Can't put in more than what they earned that year, but I would do the match. And they all were fully conscious and aware as a 15-year-old about looking at a paycheck and seeing how much vanished in taxes, and also understanding the advantage of deferring wants. Just two examples. So yeah, there's stuff the schools can do marrying money and personal finance, but you and I can do it too. And there's many other examples I could give, but the point's clear. You don't wait till somebody's an adult for them to understand personal finance. I love something that started in the evangelical Christian community that spread far and wide over the years, and that is with young children, the 3 jars: spending, saving, and charity, tithing. That the idea is that visually a child learns that there are different purposes for money: immediate, long-term, and making a difference in your community. Great teaching. Whatever it is, think this through, because kids aren't going to get it from osmosis. They need to learn, and it can't just be the schools. They need to learn the school life in your own household.
All right, we'll go to some questions now. Jeff in Nebraska says, it used to be common when you answer questions about Social Security to mention the do-over option, where at a certain time you could pay back everything you took out of Social Security interest-free, and then you were able to restart your payments at a higher rate as if you had just started your benefit. I've not heard you talk about this in a very long time. Did the law change, or are you having a senior moment? As an aside, about 17 years ago, I called and asked you about cheap travel options to Mongolia from Omaha, Nebraska, to see a woman that I had met through her sister living here. You seemed very dubious on the call. Just to let you know, we will be married 15 years this August.
Ah!
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So your heart was right. And that's fantastic. So, there was a law change. And so you can't just get a Social Security check month after month, year after year, and then say, well, I made it to nearly 70. I'm going to pay it all back, and I'm going to delay receiving my check so I can get a much bigger check later. And they don't let you do that anymore. I think now it's 12 months?
It's 12 months.
12
yep.
months. You're allowed to, in that first year where you claim Social Security, you're able to say, do over and pay it back, and then it restarts the clock. And the big advantage is that you get a much, much larger check the longer you wait. Many times people aren't in a financial position to wait, and you have to take that check sometime starting at age 62. But if you are financially able, you want to wait till age 70, barring the financial need or that your health is clearly not good and you know you won't make it to the break-even point, which may be late 70s, early 80s, depending on your particular circumstance and situation. I have multiple health problems that have been well shared on the podcast. And so my lifespan, is very cloudy, questionable what it's going to be. But I'm still waiting till age 70 to take Social Security because it will benefit my wife so much in what she will receive in the event of my demise before I'd like it to be. So how else do I put that?
That's fine.
That's enough.
Kevin in Oregon says, my wife and I recently signed up for a European river cruise in late 2025. We've never purchased a cruise before, and we're surprised to learn that the company wants full payment a year prior to the date of the trip. Would it be a good financial move to get a travel credit card to use for this purchase? My thinking is it'll make it easier to pay off over time and perhaps gain some future travel rewards. We do visit family in Europe from time to time, and our credit score is excellent.
So, Kevin, a credit card alone will not help you because the rights with a credit card for protection from failure to deliver goods and services is limited, and when you get past 60 days, becomes more and more difficult to successfully make a claim. So what you want to look for, first of all, you don't want to just send a river cruise line a check for payment for your trip a year in advance and say everything's going to work out fine, because it may not. But there are particular credit cards that are travel oriented that not only will you earn all those points, but in addition, they offer trip insurance that covers supplier default, which is very important that it includes supplier default, and also if something happens that's a medically qualified event and you can't go on it, the credit card pays you back. The one that's most respected for this is a really expensive credit card, and you need to travel frequently to make it worth it, is the Chase Sapphire Reserve, is the one that does the best at those things, but there are others as well. But just paying by credit card when you have to pay so far in advance is not enough.
And we have in our credit card section on Clark.com, we have an updated list of what the current offers are and all those travel cards and reviews and stuff if you're looking to see if you do decide to do that.
But read thoroughly in the offers for a card what coverage they offer for trip cancellation and trip interruption and supplier default. That's when they go bust.
Mario in Michigan says, I wanted to follow up on some advice you gave me several weeks ago. I had my luggage stolen from the baggage carousel at the airport in Houston. I submitted a claim to the airline for reimbursement of the stolen bag and its contents. It had been over a month, and I had not heard a word from the airline regarding our claim. You advised that I should file a complaint with the Department of Transportation to see if they could intervene. Wouldn't you know, a week later, the airline sent me a check for the lost items. It may have been a coincidence, but I strongly believe your advice kick-started the process.
Yeah, giant coincidence. It just kind of happened. No, so the DOT does not, when you file one of those complaints, they don't have somebody who calls up the airline or sends an email and says, hey, what's going on with this? Why haven't you taken care of Mario's baggage claim? What happens is they're compiling data, and the airlines want to look good in the report, in the scorecard, the report card that DOT puts out. And complaints, unresolved complaints, are a real problem for the airlines. So filing the complaint at DOT, the power of it is the information that is then compiled and published. So likely the complaint that is then forwarded on electronically to the airline the complaint's about probably is what happened. Or yes, it could have been a complete coincidence.
I love the follow-up, though. Thank you for letting us know. It's good to know, right, what happens with some of these things.
Exactly. So there's no caseworker who's assigned to you when you file a complaint at dot.gov, but it does have impact and makes a difference. Now, this is different than with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. When you file a complaint at consumerfinance.gov, it actually does lead to a formalized process where the bank, credit card company, whoever has to answer back on your individual complaint. Whole different thing than what happens with how the DOT does it with the airlines. But filing those complaints makes a difference. And I think about when somebody will say, well, you told me to file. Yeah, I heard you talk about, filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, and that didn't do anything. You got to know that the Better Business Bureau works great as a place to complain to when it's a legitimate business that just isn't doing what it should do. Doesn't work at all if you're complaining about a crook or a shady operator. So it all depends. You're pushing different levers, pushing different buttons, trying to get satisfaction. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's another tool in the toolbox for you to be able to advocate for yourself and solve a problem that you've been unable to solve. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, what we're devoted to is you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. See you tomorrow.